Los Angeles, the second largest city in the United States, famous for its cinema industry and wealth, is currently experiencing one of the worst wildfires in its history. This fire has already claimed lives, left over 100,000 people homeless, and caused damages exceeding $30 billion. It is an unprecedented tragedy. What we are witnessing now might just be a reflection of what is yet to come, and the Bible has already warned us about the signs of the end times. We are facing a catastrophic scenario, but there is still time to change. Stay until the end of the video to understand what is really happening and the warnings the world is sending us. If you want to stay informed about everything and understand what lies behind these disasters, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any updates. Firefighters reported at least 5 active fire zones. 3 of them are completely out of control. The flames are so intense that the city seems surrounded by fire. This is extremely dangerous, as the situation keeps worsening. To make matters worse, strong winds, known as Santa Ana winds, reach speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. These winds, combined with the dry climate and water shortage, have made it even harder to control the blaze. All of this contributed to the disaster unfolding in an unexpected way, with no one prepared for what was to come. The tragedy began in a Los Angeles neighborhood called Pacific Palisades, and no one knows exactly what caused the fire. The smoke was seen by satellite early in the morning, and the situation quickly worsened. In addition to Pacific Palisades, the fire also spread to areas like West Hills, Altadena, and Hollywood Hills, where the famous Hollywood sign is located. Unfortunately, there is no chance of controlling the fire now due to the severity of the situation. All events and attractions have been canceled, and hotels have opened their doors to accommodate those who have lost their homes. The California government declared a state of emergency, and U.S. President Joe Biden, who was in the city, helped implement necessary measures. This story makes us reflect. The Bible speaks of the end times, saying that there would be natural disasters. What is happening in Los Angeles is an example of this. When we see so many tragedies and catastrophes, it is a reminder of how the earth is suffering and how we need to be prepared both physically and spiritually for difficult times. The fire in Los Angeles is just a small part of what might happen if we don't take care of our planet and our actions. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah by fire and sulfur, as divine punishment, is a story of great devastation. Cities were consumed by fire because of the immorality of their inhabitants. This story can be symbolically linked to the devastating wildfires that consume vast areas and entire cities, serving as a warning of the destructive power of events. What do you think these natural disasters, such as devastating wildfires and extreme climate changes, can teach us about the times we are living in? Do you believe they are signs of something greater, like what is described in the Bible about the end times? Leave your opinion in the comments below. We want to know what you think about this situation. More than 13,000 buildings and homes in Los Angeles have been completely destroyed by the flames, and entire neighborhoods have turned into piles of ashes. Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna compared the destruction to a war zone, as if an atomic bomb had been dropped on the city. There are several reasons for this, including strong winds, dry weather, lack of infrastructure, and, of course, the effects of climate change. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass explained in a press conference that the winds in the city were so strong that they helped spread the flames even faster. These winds are called Santa Ana winds, and they occur when a large mass of hot, dry air forms in the western United States. This air comes from regions such as Nevada, Utah, Idaho, and the southeast of Oregon, which are naturally dry. These winds, which are almost devoid of moisture, reach California and make the fire even harder to control. This phenomenon happens several times a year, especially between the colder months from September to May. But this time, the wind lasted much longer than usual, contributing to the disaster. Another major problem is the lack of water, which makes fighting the fire even more difficult. In fires like this, Firefighters usually use planes and helicopters to collect water from rivers, lakes, or even the ocean to drop on the flames. This helps extinguish the fire and also moistens the surrounding area to prevent the fire from spreading further. However, with so much smoke in the air and winds reaching up to 100 miles per hour, it's impossible to fly under these conditions. Thus, firefighters have to fight the fire directly on the ground, making their job much more difficult. Unable to collect water from natural reservoirs, firefighters depend on the city's hydrants, which are supplied by a municipal aqueduct. The problem is that, due to the high water demand from the fire, the hydrant system cannot be quickly replenished. In the case of the Pacific Palisades focus, for example, the 3 water tanks that supply the hydrants emptied quickly. The first tank ran out at 4 p.m., the second at 8 p.m., and the third at 3 a.m. the next day. Moreover, University of California environmental engineering professor J. Land explains that the water reservoirs were designed to fight fires in urban areas, not in regions with large areas of vegetation, like the ones being affected by the fire outbreaks. In places like Hollywood Hills, the strong winds and large flames make it impossible for firefighters to get close enough to combat the fire, even if there is water available. Fire brigade leaders have stated that many fire outbreaks have no chance of being controlled, and that a large portion of the situation is completely out of control. Anthony Marin, a fire department coordinator, also pointed out that no one was prepared for a fire of this magnitude. The number of fire outbreaks and the intensity of the flames are so great that there aren't enough personnel to handle the situation. Another very important factor contributing to this catastrophe is the impact of climate change. Global warming has caused extreme changes in weather conditions, both in California and in other parts of the world. Matt McTay, an environmental specialist at the BBC, explains that global warming is causing large fluctuations between dry and very wet periods. This phenomenon is called climate whiplash, and in 2018, for example, California went through a severe drought. The lack of water during that time made the region more vulnerable to wildfires, which often started with simple incidents, like a tire blowout that sparked on the road. These climate changes are making it increasingly difficult to control situations like this. And the Bible, when talking about the end times, mentions that great disasters would occur as signs for humanity. What we are seeing in Los Angeles is just a reflection of what could spread to other parts of the world if we don't take better care of our planet and our actions. These fires serve as a reminder of how we need to prepare for difficult times, as prophesied in the scriptures. Between 2022 and 2023, California experienced the complete opposite of what we're seeing now. The state was hit by 2 winters of intense rainfall, which caused flooding in several cities, something similar to what happened in Brazil, in Rio Grande do Sul, last year. This extremely wet climate caused the vegetation to grow uncontrollably, as had not been seen in a long time. But when the rainy cycle ended, a new wave of drought in 2024 turned all that fresh, green vegetation into perfect fuel for the fire. It's a real tragedy, a scenario no one expected, but that was formed by a sequence of catastrophic factors. The worst part is that authorities were unprepared for this. To make matters worse, winter in the northern hemisphere didn't bring the expected cold. Temperatures have been higher than usual, which has made it even more difficult to control the fire. California and several neighboring states have been facing heat records for at least the past 3 months. This is the sum of a set of circumstances that form the perfect recipe for a catastrophe. Strong winds, dry vegetation, and the lack of resources to combat the flames have created a devastating combination. And what we are seeing in Los Angeles is only a part of what may happen in other regions of the world if we don't change our attitudes. The Bible, when talking about Armageddon, describes a great battle and destruction at the end of times. In recent days, there have been reports of Brazilians living in the region who are trying to find shelter and protection. Many communication lines have been affected, making it even more difficult for families to know what is happening. The tragedy is affecting not only the people living there, but also those who are far away, seeking news. And the worst part is that this situation, like a nightmare, seems to have no end. This destruction we are witnessing today is not just a local catastrophe, but a warning sign. We are facing a tragedy that, if left uncontrolled, could grow even bigger. And as said in the scriptures, we must be prepared. Disasters are not something distant or impossible to happen. They're happening right before our eyes. Every day, more and more people are becoming desperate, and the fight to control the situation seems more and more impossible. But there is still hope. We must learn from these signs, reflect on what is happening in the world, and act so that the tragedies do not multiply. Armageddon, as described in the Bible, speaks of an end that many cannot avoid. But for us who still have time, it is a warning that we need to change before it is too late.